Hey guys, what's up? Lore Master here, and welcome back to another Minecraft modding tutorial video. In this episode, we'll be focusing on block metadata. If you don't know what metadata is, it's essentially data of other data. So this is like properties of blocks. So we're going to be setting the hardness, how resistant it is to explosives, the harvest level, what kind of pickaxe you need to harvest, what block or item drops when you break it, stuff like that. Very important properties that you would set for a block normally, because in the past in our block video we made a basic block, so in this one we'll be defining it a little bit more. Alright, so getting right into it, what you're going to want to do is come over to your init package over here and find mod blocks, and you can see inside of here, if you double click, that we have our Ruby block that we made in the last episode, or whatever block you may have made, and you can see right here that it is a type block base. That's the class of this object. And if we go to block base over in our blocks package, double click blockbase.java, you can see that this is sort of a very basic constructor. It just takes in a name and material and sets it to a creative tab and initializes the block and sets it to be able to be rendered. And what we want is a little bit more specific. We want each block to be unique, obviously, not just basic cardboard cutouts. So we'll be setting some really interesting, cool properties. So in order to do that, you're going to have to make inside of blocks, your package, a new class specific to each individual block you have here. Otherwise, if you want your block to be a basic one with no interesting properties, you would just set it to block base. So in this case, we want Ruby block to be unique, obviously. So in our blocks package, we're going to right click, new class, and this is going to be named Ruby block with a capital R and B. And inside of this class, we're going to be doing a few things. So first off, we want to make sure it extends block base. So at the top here, extends space and then block base. And this is going to be a thing called inheritance. Don't worry if you've never learned Java before, but all we're doing is taking all the code from here and essentially inheriting it into Ruby block so that we can still have the code in here but add on to it without actually changing block base itself. So don't worry if you don't know what that means, just you can still follow along, but you'll get a little error right here. Hover over Ruby block and make sure to click add constructor, and you'll get this basic constructor here. It's the same one that we have in block base, but it's empty. So if you get rid of the to-do here, because you don't actually need that, we're going to add a couple interesting unique things. So inside of here, first thing that you're going to want to do, and bring down this little bracket for aesthetic purposes. Same here, I just like the way it looks. It's a lot more organized, but anyway, inside of our constructor, first thing we're going to set is a sound type. So set sound type, parentheses, and sound type dot, and this is what you're going to send your sound type as. So we'll come back to the sound type in a second, just add a semicolon at the end, but we're setting the sound type of our block. So this is going to be what it sounds like when you're running over it. This is not when you're breaking it with a pickaxe. This is when you're walking over it, what sound does it make? So if you go to sound type right here, sound type dot, add a dot, you'll see there's a bunch of different types. There'll be a list. You can choose whichever one works best for you. In my case, this is going to be a Ruby block, so I'm going to make it sound sort of like a metal sound, I guess. Sounds good for me. If you want to test these out, you can test them out, run the game, and then come back and change them. It's very simple. So mine will be metal, but you can choose any one from that list that applies to you. And if we save, that should be our sound type. So when we walk over our block, Ruby block at least, it'll sound like metal. So, or I guess what the iron block sounds like. So next you can make a little space, and we're gonna set the hardness. So this is gonna be set hardness, parentheses, and inside of here we need to have a float value. So I'm gonna put 5.0 f and a semicolon at the end. Now what set hardness does is set how hard it is to break it with a your hand or a pickaxe. Essentially how long it takes to break it. So obviously in Minecraft, obsidian takes a really long time to break. That's because the hardness is really high, whereas dirt is really easy to break. You can break it with your hand. Its hardness is very low. So I'll have a huge reference sheet for all the different float values so you can see where you want yours to be. For reference right now, stone is 1.5 f, dirt is 0.5 f. I'll have the whole reference sheet, but for now we can go to this website. It's in a little wiki right here in fandom. It's the Minecraft mod custom stuff wiki, and we have all the hardness different values right here. So we can see I want to find the what is it, emerald block, because my Ruby block is very similar. So if I find the emerald block, emerald, I don't think they actually have emerald on here, but that's not important. We can just find something very similar, like the diamond block, for example. Diamond block has a hardness of 5, so I'm gonna make mine 5 as well because I want it to be similar. So all the different ones will be posted up here. I'll put all these things in a big Google document that'll be open for everyone in the description right now. So go there and you can find all these different wikis, which will have all the different float values. But anyway, so that's the hardness done. So now we can make another space right after set hardness, and we'll be moving on to set resistance. So set resistance, parentheses, and inside of these parentheses, add a semicolon at the end, by the way. Inside these parentheses, we'll be adding another float value. In this case, I'm going to put 15.0f. And just like hardness, if we go back to a website here, set resistance essentially sets how resistant a block is to explosives. So if a creeper explodes or TNT explodes, how likely is it to break and how easy it is to break. You can see here that like bedrock and command blocks and like anvils and obsidian have really high values like 6,000, whereas regular blocks like concrete and emerald ore have 15. So if you want to have it be just a basic block, I would put 15. If you want it to be weaker, probably be below that, and stronger would be anywhere above 15. All the way up to 18 whatever million this one is. But again, all these websites will be in the description, so don't worry about that. But I'm going to be setting mine to 15.0f, and yeah, so we can move on from resistance. Next we'll be doing the harvest level, so set harvest level, parentheses and a semicolon, and inside of these parentheses we will be putting pickaxe in my case, and a comma, and for me too, and I'll explain what this means in a second. So pickaxe right here, what you're going to want to put is the type of tool per se, I guess, in Minecraft that you'll be using to break your block. So if you're making a wooden kind of block, I would put axe here. If you're putting a dirt kind of block, I would put spade. It's either spade or shovel. It's one of the two. I'm not really sure. You'll have to test that out yourself. But because it changes based on versions, so I think it's spade, but it might be shovel. If it's a stone-like block or a gem, you want to put pickaxe. And if you for some reason are making a block that is broken with a sword, which I don't know why you would, but if it is, then you can put sword there. But just put whatever you want to use to break your block with. And so mine is gonna be pickaxe, and you can see here I have a value 2. This is the like harvest level. So if you kind of know in ores in Minecraft, like certain ores can't be broken by certain pickaxes. So redstone requires an iron pickaxe or above to break without it like dropping anything. That's what you're essentially setting here. So if we go to our website that I have in the description, harvest level, you can see 0 equals a wooden pickaxe, 1 equals a stone/gold pickaxe, 2 equals an iron, and 3 equals a diamond pickaxe. So I'm setting 2 because I want you to be able to break my block only if you have a iron pickaxe or above. So if you break it with a stone or a wooden or a gold, it won't actually drop anything. It'll just kind of break the block. That's how I want it to set mine, I guess, for demonstration purposes. So after harvest level, you can make another space, and we're going to be setting our light level. So set light level, parentheses and a semicolon after. And I should mention, by the way, that you don't actually need any of these. If you don't want any of these, you can totally remove them. These are all optional. So if you don't want set light level, or you don't want set sound type or hardness, you can just delete it like this, and it'll be fine. It'll still run. These are all optional to, I'm just showing you all of them so that you can actually get a feel for what you have the ability to add to your block. So for set light level, this is going to be how much light your block emits. So if you don't want your block to emit light, then don't use this. But by what I mean by emit light is, glowstone, for example, emits light in darkness. It's the same sort of idea here. Your block will be, shining out light. So I'm just gonna put mine as like 1.0f. It'll emit a little bit of light. Usually you can come over to this this little wiki page. Again, will be in the description. You can see the different light levels of like fire and lava or glowstone. And you can see that the average bright light level is 15. Everything else is below. So I'm just putting 1.0 for testing purposes. But yeah, so if you want yours to, if it's a lamp or something, add that. And then below that, we're going to set light opacity. This is going to be how easy it is for essentially light to pass through a block. So I wouldn't use this at all unless you're making a window, but we really haven't covered windows yet because that's a special block type. So I don't even think you would ever use this. But if you are for some reason going to use it, you would essentially put it as 1.0f. or sorry, not 1.0f, it's a int type, so just 1. And this would essentially allow all light to pass through your block to the other side. An example of this would be if you were to make a house out of your material like this, all light would still come through it. So yeah, if that makes sort of any sense. But I'm not going to be using that for mine because mine is going to be a standard block. Actually, you know what? Just to keep it on here for like purposes of people being able to see it on the GitHub repository, I am just going to set a / so that you can see it, but it doesn't actually do anything. And we can move on to our last one. So the last option that you have is set block unbreakable with a parentheses and a semicolon, and you don't actually need to put anything in this, but you can probably guess what this one does. It makes your block unbreakable. So the only one I know that has this is the end, or not endstone, sorry. I believe it's called like not obsidian. I'm thinking of the bedrock. That's what it's called. I'm pretty sure bedrock's the only block that has this, but this essentially stops your block from being able to be broken no matter what. It's really not useful unless you're making something that, you know, obviously can't be broken. So in my case, I'm going to be putting 2 slashes through it, but I will keep it there in case you need it for some reason. Okay, so we've pretty much finished our Ruby block class. So in order to actually set this as our block, I'll just get rid of the space too, by the way. In order to set this as our block, we're gonna have to go back to modblocks.java. Again, this is in your blocks, or not blocks, your init package. And you know, we have our Ruby block right here, or whatever you named your block. And again, it's a new block base. Just delete that block base and instead put your new class. So mine is Ruby block. It's going to be the same name as your class right here in your blocks package. So Ruby block for me, same name, and make sure to hover over it and import from your package. And if you save, that should get rid of any errors. And if you run the game now, you'll see that your block has all these new properties inside of it. Here we go, all these new properties, and you can play around with them and see what works for you, and you know, make your own unique block. And yeah, so I will be running the game, and I will see you guys in a second. We go to main and run, and I will see you guys in Minecraft. Alright, so we're inside of the game, and you can see I have some of our Ruby blocks placed here for us to test out. And if you remember, we set it so that only an iron pickaxe or higher can actually break it, whereas a wooden or stone or gold pickaxe will not be able to. So we'll test that out right now. So you can see, you know, we set our hardness value, so you can see that it takes a little while to break it with an iron pickaxe. But if we do break it with an iron pickaxe, it should drop, there we go, one little Ruby block, and we can place it back down. But if we try it with a wooden pickaxe, for example, not only does it take a very long time to break, but we won't actually get anything in return. It'll just break the block and nothing will be there. So you can see it'll take a little second here, but here we go. And nothing. So we got nothing in return, and that is working just beautifully. And also we have our resistance value as 15, so we can test that out real quick with some TNT. So this shouldn't do a ton of damage because we have a resistance value. So if we get a redstone torch, there we go. We set our resistance to 15, which is pretty general, something crazy, but you can see it blew up most of them. Some of them survived. If the resistance value was, say, for example, 3 or 4, not only would those be gone, but all of this ground would probably be gone. There'd probably be a big hole in the ground. So you can play around with that, you know, change whatever you want based on what you think your block, what would fit your block best. But we're also going to test out a few new things. I'm going to try walking on it. I have sound not enabled for my recording software right now, but it does sound like I'm walking on an iron block, so that's definitely working pretty well. And you know, it should sound like exactly whatever you set your sound type to. So make sure that's working right. And also, if we set it to nighttime, we also set a light emittance rate. So you can see here that if we step back in the darkness, that it's definitely emitting a lot of light, and it's acting sort of like a glowstone block. And you can play around with that. You know, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. All of these things are optional. They're all properties. But yeah, now we have our own custom unique block with a bunch of really cool unique properties, and it's working perfectly. So yeah, we're gonna go back into Eclipse real quick, and I'm gonna show you one last thing. Okay, so back in Eclipse, I just want to show you guys really quickly how you can make a new block now. So if you ever want to make a new block, like I said before, just copy and paste in your mod blocks class this little line right here, and just change, you know, the name here, and all you have to do here is make a new class. So instead of Ruby block, you know, maybe it'd be called Cool Block or whatever you want, and you'd make a new class in blocks. It would be, and you just copy and paste everything here. Make sure it extends block base. and copy and paste these things right here, and then you can change all the different attributes, and you have another custom block. Obviously we're not going to do that right now, but that's just an example of how easy it is now that you've set up the bare bones methods and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a lot easier to do all that stuff on your own. But thanks guys so much for watching. I hope you learned a little bit, and this will definitely help a lot with OR and ORGen, which we'll be doing in the future. So definitely stay tuned. There's a lot coming, and thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys later.